However, to Ano, this makes using these 3 days to train, then resuming to her studies as best as she can, even if the worst case scenario she can think of doesn't happen. Of course, she can always do her homework while she is resting, but she has to become more able with her magic. For everyone's sake. 2 days pass, as the Love Spell team has been training non-stop. Today is Monday, April the 11th, 2017, with the day looking the happiest it had ever been in a long while. Rather, the sky is radiant with blue. Anna wakes up relatively around sunrise, ready to finally complete that set of techniques she's been wanting to do with the chain links. Before she goes on with this, however, she grabs a bite to eat from what her friends left her, which would be some canned beans. It was stale, but it was brought to her by her friends, so to her, it still tasted right at home. Immediately after, she calls Rising Sun University and explained that she has a club track meet, and therefore wouldn't be able to head to class. It was a white lie, but she doesn't like to say that she's sick, when she really isn't. She then gets excited, puts a fist in her own hand, and smiles. Julie and Emily, meanwhile, have left the house to head to school. So, you end up reading that article online about that one student who's been elected to be a speaker about climate change at the Peace Summit? Julie says to Emily. Well, not really. I mean, I was so tired from yesterday that I couldn't just look at it. Had the summit not been yesterday, we probably could have sat down and seen what the article was talking about on TV. Maybe could have known the guy's name. But why not stream it instead? My data plan can't handle this sort of thing. Emily tries to explain. Well, I just like sitting at a television a lot more. I mean, you got the remote, you don't have to worry about spilling tea all over the TV, no lag. It's just a lot more usable. Surely you must not understand the advanced streaming capabilities of the modern era, being able to see whatever you want without having to record it first, no ads. It's a safe haven for youngsters like you, Julie. Julie turns around to face Emily, clearly feeling a little challenged from Emily's neo-tech attitude. What? The ads are the best part. They help you find things that you would have never known about otherwise, like a fresh tub of shampoo you can use for all your body parts, or a news article just like the Peace Summit one. Emily laughs a little, and turns to face Julie with a small grin on her face. Well, yeah, got me. Can't exactly argue against the purpose of ads. It does really suck that a lot of them online aren't real ads though. Yeah, it's really awful. They have plenty of other pleasant talks, as they make it to the last crossing between the school and the sidewalk they were on. However, something seemed extremely off. There were almost no fellow students roaming about as per usual. Only one, lavender-haired, rather slimly built girl walked inside. However, as soon as they noticed this, Haim appeared directly their side, almost like she had been leaning on the fence the whole time. But it seemed like she just showed up, out of nowhere. She has her usual, non-emotional attitude, but for some reason, it seems like she was waiting as well. It was very mysterious indeed. Miss Honorisa, Miss Mayweather, thank you for coming to attend classes today. But, well, we decided to have condensed classes today. Basically just the afternoon. Julie merely opens her mouth to let Haim see her thoughts. Well yes, that's exactly why I was around the area. You probably knew this day was coming when I get immediate orders to take you in. Emily then opens her mouth as Julie is closing hers. Of course I won't choose anywhere near the school for us to have this encounter, and I want to treat you two like human beings, not some stray cat that needs elimination. She suddenly passes a map with a circled area to them both. That's where it'll start. Of course, if you don't come, we'll just take Ano for interrogation like head office demanded us to this whole time. Haim teleports off. The two girls then tense up and begin to have a little bit of worry in their heads. Damn it, she's intentionally doing this to stress us out and to make us waste a bunch of energy to get there, isn't she? Emily remarks. Extremely clever. They look at each other and just simply nod. They have to accept her offer, or Ano will have horrible things done to her. So they begin to walk to the meeting spot. Thousands of thoughts about Ano's well-being rushed through Emily's head all the time they had been together, and then the thought of her finishing her training and then being stolen away by 20 men, with no recourse. They'd even probably destroy the book, if they found it. Julie also had similar thoughts, but about both herself and Emily. Would they even live to see Ano again after this? Or any of their friends for that matter? For having such a powerful magic source, they couldn't risk an entire group of friends getting a hold of it. So the entire team had to die. But one thought was universal between the both of them. They weren't going to let anything happen to their livelihood, no matter what a bunch of Italian-descended shits had to say about it. And if they were going to continue away, they'd have to make them understand. Once they arrived to the location, an abandoned landfill at the outer edge of the town, Emily and Julie stopped, turned and looked at the bits of town directly behind them, taking it in for a moment. So, this is our town, eh? Our pride. How long has it been since you left Hinamato and came here? Emily asks Julie. Gosh, I don't even know. 3 years, I guess. What a short 3 years it's been. I know, right? It's funny how, just in those 3 years, what we thought would be just some far-off thing that never happened, would take place. and we're the epicenter of it. Yeah, I remember it like it was yesterday. Me, you, and someone else were all sitting down on a random park bench right after school ended. You sat there, depressed and lonely, and I was in the middle of doing my after-school jog. So I sat down, talked to you, and after you didn't want to talk to me, followed you home, even though I was supposed to be back at 6. Emily stopped and closed her eyes again, and saw the day like it truly was indeed happening, her being mostly quiet and alone. A lot of what Julie said was right. She was at the bench simply because she wanted vitamin D that day, not to talk to anyone, or be scared again. Home was her sweet, special place, where no one bothered her, where she could just do anything it took to make her life even the tiniest of enjoyable. Then a blonde girl came. The class clown, not being good at anything other than being a jock, was taking a stroll around the school's park. Blossom High's park. She seemed to do this quite often, even though she got placed here, because there were no schools in her area. Her sweat was rather tame, and she was clearly prepared with a set of bloomers. Emily was half expecting her to just simply run past her and not notice, like nearly everyone else. But then she stopped herself and looked her straight in the eye, very curiously, and concerned. "Hey there, fellow classmate. Are you feeling alright? Something happened?" Emily said nothing, just stared at her to go away. But she didn't listen and sat right next to her, willingly. For someone who's been friendless for so long, this was obviously a shock to her. "Hey, you don't have to be alone, okay? There's no reason for you to be crying like this and not have someone be nice to you." Julie touches Emily's shoulder in an attempt to calm her a little, but Emily was getting more shaky, having conflicting thoughts, her shyness, all these emotions kicking in all at once. If she did anything at this moment, she'd cry. And if she cried, no one would like her. Not even this new girl. So she sat there and stared at the floor. It was the only thing Emily could do to contain all her emotions for when she got home. "Come on there, just let it all out. I'm going home. Don't follow me," Emily said in a quiet tone, then stood up and ran all the way back to her house. As soon as she got home, she took a deep sigh and began to cry profusely, all to herself, alone in her living room. Then the doorbell rang. No one ever rings the doorbell for her. All she'd get were eggings and toilet paper bombs from the Heim fan club. And that was only once every year. She opened the door to find that same sweating blonde and one of her friends from second year. And she hadn't wiped the tears off her face yet. "Hey, I know you said you didn't want me to come, but, well, I know you really need someone right now. So I brought myself," and a massive screeching noise came inside Emily's head the moment she tried to remember that friend's name. It hurt unbelievably bad. Julie comforted her, as she did back then, and got her back on her feet. That girl seemed like the sweetest and most gentle person in the entire school, but trying to remember her name, at this exact moment, felt like static. It wasn't like this back in April Fools. "Emily, get a hold of yourself. Her name Julie. It hurts when I try to remember her name. Well, I guess that memory is too painful now, whatever the reason is. Now, we should go meet Hein." Julie holds out her hand to Emily once again, and Emily grabs a hold of it. One last handshake. They finally reach the center, where the crane sits to manage all the garbage. It seemed like the top and the entrance were purposely cut and constructed, somehow, into a large arena without any spectator seating. Rather, just a solid cylinder shape. Hein is standing perfectly still, far away from the entrance. It's obvious by the footprints on the dirt that she's not been standing there for long. As the two girls walk in, they decide to stop only 1.5 meters from Hein. "Well, you obviously knew we'd have no choice but to come here, right?" Emily says to Hein. "Of course. I set up the arena to be fair to, well, all of us. As fair as it can possibly be without being against the code. You really didn't have to do that, you know. Could have just fought in a bog if you wanted to." As soon as Julie begins trying to spark conversation, Hein squares her straight in the jaw, sending her back a little. "This is both a little payback for not waiting for my signal last time, and what HR wanted me to do anyway." Hein puts up one of her fighting positions, while Emily does the same, while Julie is recovering. The fight starts now. Julie and Emily close their mouths and watch for small instances of fog, while also keeping an eye on Hein. Then Hein dashes directly between the two of them. However, during all of this, on the other side of the town, Tomo is now attempting to use the chain link to make incredibly strong techniques, by spinning around fireballs close and far away from her like it's a chain mace. She even goes to having two fireballs connected to the same hand to turn it into a disc-like shape. She ends up causing one to go pretty far, but all of a sudden, one of her fireballs just vanishes without a signal, and she sees this. She's wondering how unbelievably bizarre that is. They never do that really, at least as far as she's seen. All of a sudden, a massive bin of fog and a green explosion suddenly appear in the sky. Oh shit, are Emily and Julie in trouble? In her head, she desperately feels like she needs to help them. But she hasn't figured out how to fly yet. Well, she could try something she always thought about. She runs at full speed, constantly healing her muscle conditions with magic inside her. It'd take a bit, but she'd get there. Emily and Julie get pushed back by a strong punch and kick respectively, but to their surprise, she doesn't attack right after. Both of them are rather careful in their approach, but Julie breathes through her mouth by accident for a slight moment. Emily, seeing this, throws herself in front of Julie to block one of Haim's martial arts techniques. She seems smart enough to not call out the attack, and the flurry of hits sends Emily flying into the wall, making dust blow around that spot, blocking the vision of everyone involved. You know, your friend saved you from potentially getting pretty injured due to your own mistake. Rather foolish of both you and her. Julie then taps the ground and makes two clones, but she makes wall in front of Haim. Next thing she know, two Julars made of stone manage to sneak to each side of Haim and repeatedly barrage her with punches and kicks, forcing Haim to dodge and or block them. However, she understands their pattern and prepares to strike a blow straight to the shoulder of one of these fighters. However, as she lands this stone-crushing flat palm strike, a limestone junk twice the size of her rams her from behind, carrying her with it. She plans on getting off it using a strike to it as well, but the chunk reveals itself to be another Julie, full Nelsoning Haim, while a volley of green flame projectiles just pummel her. It destroys the clone and causes a pretty small explosion, but Julie and Emily are perfectly aware that she's still able to fight, quite well even. All it did was damage the clothing on her left arm, ripping her sleeve off, and giving her some slight burns. Alright, since you two are able to compete with me without doing anything, I shall become serious. You know, the bit you probably were training for. The fog denses up enough, so that they can't see much of anything, but they notice that there's a hint of oxygen in this air. She hasn't completely gotten rid of it yet. The first thing Haim does is take out the other Julie clone, relatively effortlessly. With this information, Julie and Emily tried to retreat out of what seemed to be the fog's limit, but for some reason, it seemed they weren't able to escape it. Figured you'd try that first. Haim says in the fog as all of a sudden, she spin kicks Julie straight up, and almost immediately afterwards, one leg dive kicked her straight into the ground. Next thing Emily knew, she got duck punched immediately, uppercutted, and then forced to land on Haim's right leg, sticking out on purpose to let gravity kick Emily for her. Julie screams Emily's name, as she hears her pain seemingly somewhere else. All of a sudden, Haim goes to let Emily fall down, but is grabbed by what seems to be a flame lasso, which Emily uses, after falling down, to attempt to throw Haim away, but her weight simply isn't enough. However, the flame is concerning enough to Haim that she activates her oxygenless fog to make Emily choke. It seems to be working, but Julie comes in, hearing the flames and sensing a little pocket of light, and rock punches Haim far away from them, also making the fog move with her. Oh shit Emily, that must have hurt horribly. Are you going to be okay? Don't worry Julie, I've lived with worse. As soon as this is going on, they back far away from each other to affirm how the fog works. As soon as they do, an afterimage of Haim, and the fog with it, teleports to Julie's general area. Then, all of a sudden, the shadowed afterimage rapidly punches and kicks her, before duck punching her and making her choke, then resuming the barrage but with a higher intensity, before Julie sees the high kick to send her flying incoming and grabs the foot barely, while gasping for air. Then, all of a sudden, a green flame blast goes through the afterimage from above, and the afterimage dashes very fast that a heel kick was delivered to Emily. This was enough time for Julie to get a flow of oxygen, and see that the fog apparently has a bottom and a top. She takes the opportunity to hit the recovering Haim again, this time with a heavy granite hula hoop, planning to jam Haim into the ground and make her unable to vanish. The end of the hula hoop meant to get caught in the ground causes a big thud. The fog ends for a moment, and Julie and Emily walk towards her to assess how badly Haim had been hurt. She is very clearly extremely dirty, with the blazer of her school outfit having a huge hole through it, implying some serious physical damage had been dealt to Haim. It seemed like she was merely just staying still, not saying a word. No signs of defeat either. She is determined to keep this going until she is sure of set train outcome, and her face said everything. Almost like she is feeling some kind of emotion or instinct for the first time. But of course, they were even more bruised and magically drained than she was.